In the beginning, there is only darkness, not the frightening kind, not the sharp, sudden darkness that hides danger, but the slow darkness, the kind that arrives gently, like a curtain falling in a quiet room, the kind of darkness that does not take anything away. It only softens what was loud, and somewhere inside this darkness, a sound begins, a low, velvet hum. A vibration so small it barely feels like it belongs to this world. It is not a roar, not a cry, not a warning. It is something older, something calmer, something that feels sacred. A cat is curled in the corner of the room like a sleeping planet, its body tucked inward, paws folded beneath it like a secret prayer. Its fur rises and falls with each breath, slow and steady, as if time itself has decided to rest. And then the purring begins, softly, almost shyly. Like a candle breathing, it wraps around the air like invisible silk. It doesn't demand attention. It invites surrender. And the question appears, as quietly as moonlight touching stone. Why do cats purr? And why does it feel like the world becomes gentler when they do? No one taught the cat to make this sound. It is not learned like language. It rises from somewhere deeper than memory, from a chamber inside the chest where ancient instincts sleep. We listen, not with our ears, but with our nervous systems, with the tired parts of us that have forgotten how to relax. Because purring does not just enter the room, it changes the room. The air feels warmer, the silence feels less empty, the night feels less lonely. It is said, some sounds do not exist for communication, some sounds exist for survival, and perhaps this one is both. We often assume purring means happiness, a cat on a blanket, a cat receiving gentle strokes, a cat half asleep in the sun, purring like a satisfied heartbeat. And yes, that is true. Cats often purr when they feel safe, when the world around them is soft enough to trust, when the body relaxes and the mind stops scanning for danger. It is the sound of comfort. But then, there is the other side of the mystery. Because cats also purr in pain. They purr when they are injured. They purr when frightened. They purr when giving birth. They purr in strange moments when no comfort is present at all. And that contradiction hangs in the air like starlight behind a veil. Why would an animal purr when it is suffering? A creature built for survival does not waste energy. A creature designed by nature does not create unnecessary things. So if purring happens in joy and in pain, then perhaps it is not merely emotion. Perhaps it is something more ancient. Perhaps purring is a hidden ritual inside the cat, a private ceremony of healing, a temple hidden beneath fur and bone. Whispers tell us the body listens to vibration, long before humans built machines, long before we understood sound waves and frequencies. Nature was already using vibration as a tool. The wind hums through cave mouths, ocean waves pulse in endless rhythm. Even the earth itself holds a constant quiet vibration, too deep for most ears to hear. And somewhere within this orchestra of natural rhythms, the cat carries its own sacred note. Science has observed something strange. Cat purring often falls within a range of frequencies that may support healing. Not magic, but something that feels like magic when you understand it. Some researchers believe these low vibrations may help stimulate bone growth, help repair tissues, help reduce pain. And suddenly, the purring becomes something else entirely. Not only a sign of comfort, but a tool, a self-generated medicine, a secret nature placed inside the smallest predator. Imagine that. A cat lying alone in the dark, injured perhaps, and instead of crying out, instead of surrendering, it begins to purr. Not for you, not for anyone, but for itself. As if its chest contains an altar, as if inside its ribs something sacred awakens and begins to hum, because it is said, some creatures survive not through strength, but through quiet endurance. Let us drift closer, not with hands, not with noise, just with imagination. Picture the cat's chest like a small cathedral, ribs curved like arches, lungs filling and emptying like slow ocean tides. And inside this cathedral, the purring begins, a vibration produced by the cat's voice box, the larynx moving with breath. A sound that is both simple and impossible, because unlike most sounds, this one doesn't need effort. It is not like barking or meowing, which takes energy and intention. Purring is almost effortless, a continuous current that can flow for long minutes, even hours, like a quiet generator humming beneath the floor of the world. And when you sit near it, you feel it, not just in your ears, but in your chest. Sometimes, without realizing it, you breathe slower. Your shoulders drop. Your heart rate softens. It doesn't feel like you are listening to an animal. It feels like you are sitting beside a living meditation, a small guardian of calm, a creature whose body holds a sound that tells your nervous system, you are safe now, in forgotten corners of the earth. Ancient people believed sound could shape reality. Chants, drums, hums, whispers, spoken into smoke and moonlight. They believed vibration could cleanse, protect, heal. And perhaps they were not entirely wrong, because when a cat purrs beside you, it feels like something ancient happens, something wordless. The mind becomes less sharp, less restless. The day begins to dissolve, and if you are tired, truly tired, the purring does not ask you to explain. It does not demand that you be strong. It simply stays. The cat does not solve your problems. It does not carry your burdens, but it gives you something rare. A living presence that does not panic. A creature that rests as if the world is not ending, even when your thoughts feel heavy, even when your heart feels crowded. And maybe that is why purring feels sacred, because it is a sound that refuses urgency, a sound that says, slow down. There is still peace here. Now we come to the strangest part, the part that feels like a mystery, too deep for daylight. Cats do not only purr with humans, they purr alone, in empty rooms, in quiet corners, in moments when no one is listening. You might walk through your home at night and hear it faintly. Your cat curled beneath a chair, eyes half closed, purring as if speaking to something unseen. And the question returns, softer now. Who is that purr for? If it were only communication, it would not happen in solitude. But if it is healing, if it is ritual, then perhaps it makes perfect sense. Perhaps the cat purrs as a way of regulating its own body, calming itself, balancing its inner world. Or perhaps, in a more poetic sense, the cat is doing something even stranger. Perhaps it is comforting the universe. Because some creatures are born with an instinct not only to survive, but to create peace around them. A cat does not build temples. It does not write prayers, but it carries something temple-like inside its chest, a vibration that turns ordinary rooms into softer places. There is another layer, even older. Kittens are born blind, small, fragile. They cannot see the world. They cannot understand danger, but they can hear vibration. A mother cat purrs, and the kittens gather close. Not because they understand, but because the sound tells their bodies, warmth is here, life is here, safety is here. It is said, before a kitten learns sight, it learns vibration. Before it learns the shape of the world, it learns the feeling of being held inside a sound. So purring is not merely comfort. It is the first language of survival, a lullaby written into bone, a sacred signal that says, stay close, rest, grow. And perhaps, somewhere deep inside us, we recognize that, because humans too are creatures calmed by rhythm, heartbeats, breathing, rain against windows. And when a cat purrs, we are brought back to that earliest memory, the quiet sound of being safe. The world can be harsh, days can be loud, people can be demanding, thoughts can run like wild animals through the mind. But then, a cat chooses to rest near you, not out of obedience, not out of duty, but out of choice. It curls in the shadows beside your body and begins to purr. And in that moment, the world changes, not dramatically, not with fireworks, just softly, as if the air becomes gentler, as if time slows, as if the night leans closer, and the purring continues, steady, slow, oceanic. A vibration like an ancient engine of survival, a spell made of breath, a temple you can hold in your lap. And perhaps this is the final truth, the quiet one. Purring is not just sound. It is a sacred tool, a healing rhythm, a calm vibration that carries the memory of survival through darkness. Because cats have walked through countless centuries, they have endured storms, deserts, hunger, cold nights beneath stars, and through it all they kept this one thing, a humming warmth inside their chest, a hidden ritual of peace, still alive, still vibrating, still whispering into the dark. And as you listen, as your eyes grow heavy, as your thoughts drift slower, maybe you don't need to understand it completely. Maybe you only need to feel it, because some mysteries were never meant to be solved, only felt, like moonlight on fur, like silence in a sacred room, like the purring temple beneath the moon, still humming, still protecting, still comforting the universe, one soft breath at a time. It is said that night has its own language, a way of speaking without sound, without urgency, without needing to be understood. And sometimes, in the quietest corners of the world, that language opens itself through a single gaze. Not a human gaze, a cat's gaze. Two eyes shimmering in dim light, like twin lakes beneath a winter sky. Still, reflective, holding something ancient inside them. You may have seen it before. A room is nearly dark. The world seems asleep. And yet, there is movement, silent, smooth. A soft shape gliding across the floor like drifting smoke. And then, a pause. The cat turns its head, and you see them, those eyes, bright, calm, almost unreal, as if the darkness itself has been folded into them and turned into something living. And in that moment, a quiet mystery blooms, slowly, gently, like a candle awakening in an empty cathedral. How does a cat see so well in the dark? What hidden architecture of night have they been given access to, that we, as humans, can only imagine? Because to us, darkness is absence, but to a cat, darkness is a place, a home, a familiar hallway, a silent garden that they can walk through without fear. And perhaps that is what makes their eyes feel so sacred, not because they are simply eyes, but because they look like doorways. Some believe cats were designed by nature not for the bright world, but for the in-between world, not for noon, not for the harsh glare of full sunlight, but for twilight, for the hours when the sun has stepped away and the moon begins to write silver on rooftops, for the moment when shadows become longer and the air cools and the world stops speaking loudly. That is when the cat comes alive, and it doesn't rush. It moves as if time is slower around it, as if every step has been placed on invisible velvet. A paw touches the ground, no sound. A tail follows behind like a soft question, and the eyes, those eyes gather the dimness like treasure. Beneath the silence, there is science, but even the science feels like a spell. Cats have eyes built differently than ours. Inside them is something called the tapetum lucidum, a reflective layer behind the retina, a hidden mirror. It sits there like a secret lake beneath the surface of vision, catching light that would otherwise be lost, and sending it back through the eye again, as if giving each tiny fragment of brightness a second chance to become sight. It is why their eyes glow when a flashlight touches them, why their gaze can look almost supernatural in darkness. It is not magic, of course, but it feels like it. Because what is magic, really? If not biology, we don't fully understand, wrapped in beauty. And when you stand in a quiet hallway with a sleeping house around you, and a cat looks back from the shadows, glowing softly like a spirit hidden behind curtains, it becomes difficult to remember that they are simply seeing. It feels like they are watching. Whispers tell us that cats do not just see the night. They belong to it. Their pupils can widen into black moons, pulling in light the way thirsty earth pulls in rain. Even the shape of their pupils, those vertical slits, is a kind of ancient design, a precision instrument for low-light hunting, a way of measuring distance, movement, and depth when the world is dim. And that is the strange truth beneath their softness. Cats are built like small predators wrapped in silk. They are gentle, yes. They are warm, yes. But they are also creatures with a blueprint written by shadowed forests and silent deserts. Even the smallest house cat carries within it the anatomy of twilight. And yet, there is a contradiction, a sacred one. Because while cats see far better than humans in darkness, they are not creatures of sunlight. Bright daylight can feel harsh to them. The noon world, the loud world, the world of sharp edges and full exposure, was never truly theirs. Their gift belongs to dusk, to midnight, to those soft hours when the world is blurred at the edges. Perhaps that is why cats seem calmer at night. Not because they are simply active, but because the world finally becomes gentle enough to match their nature. Somewhere between darkness and light, they feel balanced, like a candle flame that looks brightest only when the room is dim, in forgotten corners of the earth. Long before cats lived on couches and blankets, their ancestors moved through wild spaces where night meant survival. Deserts, where the wind carried secrets. Forests, where silence was safety. Ruins, where the smallest sound could awaken something dangerous. And through it all, eyes like theirs were everything. Eyes that could turn moonlight into clarity. Eyes that could read movement inside shadow. Eyes that could see a life unfold where other creatures saw only darkness. And maybe that is why, even now, a cat's eyes feel like memory. Because when you look into them, you are not only looking at the present moment, you are looking at an ancient survival tool, carried forward through thousands of years. Still flawless, still awake. Picture it. A moonlit garden, the air cool and still, leaves barely moving, a house quiet behind you, as if the world has folded itself into sleep. And there, near the fence, a cat stands completely motionless, not tense, not frightened, just still. Its ears listening to things you cannot hear, its whiskers feeling air currents you cannot detect, and its eyes, open wide, gathering the darkness like water. It sees a moth's drift, a mouse's pause, a distant flicker of movement in tall grass, while you see nothing, not because the world is empty, but because your vision was not built for this world. Cats remind us of that the night is not blank. It is full of quiet motion, full of small lives moving under the veil, full of stories happening without witnesses, and cats, with their twilight eyes, are among the few who can read those stories without fear. There is something deeply calming about that, because humans often fear the dark, not because it is dangerous, but because it is unknown. We fill darkness with imaginary threats. We treat it like an enemy. But cats don't. A cat can sit in darkness for an hour, watching gently, blinking slowly, as if the night is a soft book it has read before. It doesn't panic. It doesn't demand light. It simply exists inside the shadow, like it belongs there. And in that quiet acceptance, there is a lesson. Maybe night is not a threat. Maybe it is simply a place we were never taught to understand. Cats were. If you follow a cat through an empty street at midnight, you see something human eyes often miss. The world becomes different when you stop trying to control it. Windows glow like distant lanterns. Lampposts hum softly. The sky feels closer. Even the air carries a kind of sacred stillness, and the cat, moving through it all with perfect calm, seems like a guardian, not a protector in armor, but a protector in silence. A creature whose presence says, "This is not danger. This is the world when it is resting." Some believe cats are the quiet priests of twilight, walking the corridors of night as if patrolling an unseen temple. Not because they must, but because they can, because they are built for this, because their eyes are not afraid of what they cannot fully see, because they can see. And still, even with all this, even knowing the biology, the reflections, the pupils, the mystery does not disappear. Because when a cat watches darkness without fear, it feels like more than survival. It feels like reverence. Like the night is something sacred, and the cat is one of its oldest worshippers. Perhaps that is why cats have always been surrounded by myth. Egyptian temples carved their shapes into stone. Old villages whispered that cats could sense spirits. Sailors believed cats carried luck, and storms feared their gaze. Across time and continent, humans looked at cats in dim rooms and felt something ancient staring back. Not because cats are supernatural, but because their senses remind us of our limits. They remind us that reality has layers, that the world continues even when we cannot perceive it. And then there is the slow blink, that gentle closing of the eyes, as if a curtain is being lowered. In the dark, the slow blink feels even more sacred, because when a cat blinks slowly in the darkness, it is not just relaxing. It is trusting the night, trusting you, trusting that nothing will harm it in this shadowed space. And perhaps that is the final mystery, that a creature so perfectly built for survival still chooses softness, still chooses peace, still chooses to sit in a dark room beside you and share its calm vision of the world. In the end, the cat does not explain anything. It does not speak in words. It simply watches, eyes shining like quiet moons, gaze steady as a tide, and you, sitting there in the dimness, begin to understand something without language. That night is not empty. That darkness is not death. That silence is not loneliness. It is a place of hidden detail, a world with its own architecture, its own gentle beauty, its own sacred corridors. And cats, with their ancient twilight eyes, walk through that world as if they have always belonged there. Perhaps they do. Perhaps their eyes were never meant for daylight glory. Perhaps they were made for the soft hours, the hours marked by the moon, where memory fades, and sleep begins to open its gates. And maybe, when a cat stares calmly into the darkness, it is not seeing more than shapes. It is simply reminding us that night has always been a home, not a threat. Some voices only echo when we are ready to listen, and some eyes only shine to guide us gently into the quiet. It is said that the world is louder than we realize, not in sound, but in texture, in invisible currents, in quiet pressure, in the trembling breath of air that moves through rooms like a slow spirit. And somewhere within that unseen world, a cat is listening, not with ears, but with its face. The journey begins with something delicate, almost too small to matter. A single whisker, white as moonlight, trembling in the dark. It moves as if touched by an invisible hand, as if sensing the breath of a hidden doorway. A cat stands still beside a narrow space, between a chair and a wall, under a table where shadows collect, along the edge of a hallway that feels like a tunnel of silence. And before the body moves, before the paws decide, before the muscles shift, those whiskers already know. They reach forward like sacred antennae, like thin threads of ancient knowledge, and in that moment, a quiet mystery rises. Why do cats have whiskers? And how can something so fragile guide them through the world like a silent map? Whispers tell us that cats do not simply walk through space. They feel it, they measure it, they read it. The way a traveler reads stars, the way a monk reads old scrolls by candlelight, the way water reads the shape of a riverbed without needing to see it. To us, space is something we take for granted. A doorway is a doorway. A gap is a gap. A room is a room. But to a cat, space is alive. It has edges, currents, soft warnings. And the whiskers, those long, quiet hairs that curve from the cheeks like crescent moons, are the instruments that allow the cat to understand everything it cannot see. If you watch closely, you will notice the difference. A human enters a tight space and bumps a shoulder, scrapes a knee, misjudges a corner. But a cat glides through narrow places as if the world has moved aside for it, between furniture, through tall grass, past half-open doors, under quiet beds, across rooftops where the night wind moves like prayer. It doesn't hesitate, it doesn't collide with reality. It simply moves, as if guided by a map drawn in invisible ink. That is what whiskers are. Not decoration, not softness, but navigation, a sacred tool for reading the architecture of the unseen. Beneath the silence, there is science again. But here too, even the science feels like poetry. A cat's whiskers are called vibrissae. They are thicker and deeper rooted than normal fur, connected to a rich network of nerves and blood vessels. They are not dead hairs. They are living sensors. Each one is planted into the cat's face, like a doorway into the nervous system. A direct line between the outer world and the inner mind. When air shifts, when something moves nearby, when an object is close enough to disturb the space, the whiskers feel it. The cat knows, long before the paws touch, long before the eyes need to adjust. Some believe whiskers can detect tiny changes in airflow, the way wind changes around corners, the way breath curves around furniture, the way space becomes different near a wall. Not because the cat is guessing, but because the cat is measuring. And it becomes even more mysterious when you realize this. A cat's whiskers are often as wide as its body, which means they are not just sensory tools. They are rulers, a built-in measuring system, a living compass. If the whiskers pass through a space easily, the body will follow. If the whiskers touch something, brush a wall, tremble against an edge, detect resistance, the cat pauses, not with fear, with a tension, as if the whiskers have whispered a warning. This doorway is not wide enough. This tunnel does not welcome you. This space belongs to shadow, not passage. The cat does not rush. It listens. There is something almost spiritual about that, because humans are loud creatures. We push through the world. We demand space. We fill silence with movement and noise. Cats do not. Cats are careful, and the whiskers are part of that carefulness. A gentle reminder that the world speaks softly, and only the patient can hear it. To the cat, a room is not just a room. It is a landscape of invisible signals, a cathedral of tiny vibrations, a living place full of messages too subtle for human senses. In forgotten corners of the earth, long before house cats slept on blankets, their ancestors lived in tall grasses and desert edges, in rocky hills and moonlit ruins, in places where survival depended on moving silently and knowing what was near. Imagine a wild cat at night. The darkness thick, the ground uncertain, no streetlights, no human walls, only wind and movement and danger waiting without sound. In that world, whiskers were not a luxury. They were survival, a way to feel the shape of the night, a way to sense prey before it moved, a way to detect a predator nearby. Without needing to see eyes glowing in the distance, the whiskers became the cat's secret advantage, a sacred gift from evolution itself, a quiet power hidden in softness. And yet, the chapter becomes even stranger when we remember something else. Whiskers do not only sense objects, they sense vibrations, not just walls and furniture, but tiny movements in air and ground, the subtle tremors of the world. Some believe cats can use whiskers to detect changes in pressure, even the faint ripple of motion that comes from something approaching. It is why they seem to know when someone enters the room, before footsteps arrive. It is why they can chase something small in darkness and strike with perfect timing. They are not guessing. They are reading the world like a living language. Wind becomes a sentence. Silence becomes information. The cat becomes an interpreter of things unseen. This is where the mystery becomes emotional. Because whiskers are more than function, they feel like intuition made physical. Humans talk often about intuition, that strange inner knowing, that sense that something is near, or something is wrong, or something is about to change. But we don't trust it. We ignore it. We call it imagination. Cats do not. Cats trust their senses. They trust the information that arrives quietly. They trust the whisper before the shout. And whiskers are proof of that trust. A built-in reminder that the world can be understood through softness, through gentleness, through listening. The emotional arc flows like slow water, from curiosity into wonder. Because as you watch a cat move, you realize something haunting. Cats do not bump into the world like we do. Reality is not hard for them. It is not sharp. It is not clumsy. They glide, as if the edges of existence are smoother around their bodies, as if the universe has carved pathways for them in silence. And perhaps that is why watching a cat can feel calming, because it shows us a different way of being, a way of moving through life without force, a way of sensing before acting, a way of letting the world speak first. But then, like all sacred things, there is a contradiction. Whiskers are fragile. You can see it, a thin hair, a delicate curve, something so small that it feels almost impossible that it could hold such power. And yet, cats protect their whiskers fiercely. If a cat's whiskers are overstimulated, pressed too tightly against a food bowl, brushed too often, touched too much, they can become uncomfortable, almost irritated. because whiskers are not meant to be constantly disturbed. They are meant to be lightly kissed by the world, to collect information, not to be overwhelmed by it. And this is why some cats avoid deep bowls, why some cats dislike their whiskers being touched, why some cats pull away when hands come too close to their face. Because whiskers are sacred instruments, and sacred instruments do not enjoy being grabbed. They are meant to remain free. It is said that when a cat loses a whisker, it is not just losing hair. It is losing a small piece of its map, a small thread of awareness, and yet it continues. Because whiskers grow back, the world renews itself, and the cat adapts, the way nature always teaches its creatures to adapt. Still, the image remains poetic, a whisker on the floor, curled like a fallen moonbeam, silent evidence that even the most mystical tools are still part of a fragile body. Somewhere beneath all of this, there is a deeper truth hiding, that the world does not only exist in what we can see, it exists in what we can sense, in what we can feel, in the pressure of air, in the faint shift of wind, in vibrations too quiet to name. Cats remind us of that. Whiskers remind us of that. They are proof that silence has texture, that emptiness is full of information, that the world is speaking all the time, in ways we never learned to listen to. And now, the scene slows even more. A room at night, a dim lamp, a quiet breath. A cat approaches a narrow gap between the bed and the wall. The whiskers move first. They scan the air. They tremble slightly, as if tasting the invisible. The cat pauses, not because it is afraid, but because it is listening. And then it moves, softly, perfectly, without struggle, as if it already knew the path. Because it did. The whiskers told it. Perhaps that is why cats feel so mysterious, not because they hide secrets from us, but because they live in a world layered with subtle signals that we cannot access. Cats walk through the unseen the way we walk through the seen. They trust the invisible. They navigate the quiet. They measure air like ancient astronomers measuring stars. And in the end, the chapter fades into the softest truth. Maybe whiskers are reminders that the world speaks in gentle ways, that even silence has shape, and that some beings were born to hear what cannot be heard, to feel what cannot be seen, and to move through life as if the universe itself is guiding them by touch. Perhaps it was never meant to be fully understood. Some voices only echo when we are ready to listen, and some maps are written only in whiskers, marked by the moon, and carried quietly through the dark. It is said that some friendships do not begin with a handshake, or a promise, or even a name. Some begin with a shadow, a quiet presence at the edge of firelight, a pair of eyes watching from a distance, not afraid, not friendly, just aware. And so we begin far away, beneath pale stars, in a world that no longer exists the way it once did, a world of ancient dust, warm night winds, and deserts that still held secret pockets of green. The kind of night where the sky feels enormous, and the earth feels holy. The kind of night where silence is not empty, but full of unseen movement. And somewhere in that wide, sleeping landscape, a wild cat moves like smoke, not searching for affection, not looking for a home, only following hunger and instinct and the soft calling of survival. But then, something strange begins to happen, because the cat does not run from humans. It comes closer, not quickly, not openly, but the way moonlight comes, slowly, carefully, as if the world itself is deciding how much to reveal. And the mystery calls softly, how did wild cats become companions? And why did they choose humans? Not through chains, not through obedience, but through quiet agreement. In forgotten corners of the earth, early human villages began to rise. Small places at first, clusters of mud and clay, simple walls, low roofs, fires burning like steady hearts. The people who lived there were not kings, not emperors, not city builders yet. They were survivors, and they had learned something new. They had learned how to store grain, to keep food longer than a season, to gather it like treasure, to protect it, to hide it from hunger. They dried it under sun. They sealed it in jars. They placed it behind woven doors and clay walls as if it were sacred. Because in those days, food was more than comfort. Food was time. Food was life. Food was tomorrow. And where grain gathered, mice gathered too. Not loudly, not in armies, but as shadows. Tiny bodies slipping through cracks, soft teeth working in silence. Hidden theft, night after night, until survival began to leak away. The humans could not always stop them. Their hands were not fast enough. Their eyes could not watch in darkness. And that is when the cat arrived. Not as a pet, not as a gift, not as something owned. The first cats came like visitors to a temple, silent, distant, patient. They stepped into human life as if entering a sacred threshold. No one invited them with words, yet they arrived. They watched from corners, from rooftops, from the edges of fields where tall grasses swayed like slow waves. They did not ask permission. They did not demand attention. They simply observed. And sometimes they stayed. One cat first, then another, and the village did not chase them away, because something began to change. The mice disappeared, the grain survived, the nights became quieter, and the humans noticed, not with celebration, but with slow gratitude, like discovering a blessing you did not request, like finding a guardian you did not hire. Some believe this is how domestication began, not as conquest, not as capture, but as a mutual ritual, a slow agreement written in instinct and necessity. Humans needed protection from pests. Cats needed warmth, shelter, and prey that came easily. The bond formed in whispers, not commands. No one trained the cat. No one built a leash. No one carved a collar. The relationship was softer than that, more mysterious. It wasn't the kind of bond shaped by obedience. It was shaped by distance that didn't break, by trust that didn't need words, by a shared understanding that life is easier when two creatures tolerate one another's presence. It is said that dogs joined humanity through devotion, through loyalty, through an ancient choice to become part of a pack. But cats entered differently. Cats did not surrender themselves. They did not kneel. They did not become tools. They simply walked closer and found that the human world was full of warmth, fire, shelter, food, soft corners where sleep could be deep. And so they stayed near, not inside human hands, but within human reach. And that difference matters, because even now, after thousands of years, you can still feel it. The cat on your bed is domestic, but it is not conquered. It is familiar, but not completely tamed. There is still something untouchable behind its eyes, a piece of wilderness that refuses to die, a sacred contradiction. Cats remain partly wild, as if a piece of the desert still lives behind their gaze. Picture those first villages again, moonlight across clay floors, sleeping fires turning to embers, small children breathing softly under woven blankets. Outside, wind moves across the land like an old song, and in the doorway of a grain storage hut, a cat sits perfectly still, not guarding out of duty, guarding because it wants to, because that door is a promise. Behind it is food, and where food is stored, prey appears. The cat watches without impatience. It is not anxious. It is not restless. Its stillness feels ancient, and the humans see it. At first, they fear it a little, not because it is evil, but because it is sharp, a small predator, a creature shaped by hunger and night. But then they notice something else. The cat is not harming them. It is not attacking the child, not taking the grain, not stealing what doesn't belong to it. It hunts the thieves, and in doing so, it becomes a silent protector. Whispers tell us that humans began leaving scraps, not as payment, but as quiet appreciation, a piece of fish bone, a bit of meat. Something left at the edge of the fire's glow, and the cat took it. Not greedily, not desperately, just calmly, like accepting a gift without surrendering pride. Then it left, then it returned again, night after night, and slowly, without anyone realizing it, the cat became part of the village rhythm, not chained, not locked inside, but woven into the atmosphere, like smoke, like prayer, like a constant, silent presence that made survival easier. Over time, cats gave humans something else, too. Not only protection from mice, but comfort, a warmth that moves and breathes, a softness that chooses to sit beside you. And humans, who lived in harsh worlds, felt something unfamiliar. The calm that comes from being near a creature that does not panic, a creature that does not rush, a creature that can stare into darkness and remain unafraid. Cats carried the night inside them, but they were not destroyed by it. They moved through it like they belonged there, and so humans began to see something sacred in them. Not just usefulness, but mystery, a guardian of thresholds, a companion to silence, a living symbol of independence and peace. Some believe that this is why cats later became holy in old civilizations, why Egypt raised them into divinity, why temples held their images, why people believed harming a cat was a crime against the sacred balance of the world. Because by the time cities rose, cats were already there. They had arrived long before civilizations understood how or why. They were present in courtyards, in markets, in granaries, in homes, always near, never fully owned. And even in worship, they remained themselves, free. The story becomes even more haunting when we consider this. We do not know the moment it began. There was no official day, no ceremony of domestication, no first collar carved from bone, no ancient text saying, "This is when cats became ours." History is silent on the exact beginning, and that silence feels appropriate. Because cats have always preferred quiet entrances, they do not announce themselves. They appear. They are there. And suddenly the world feels different. The emotional truth is simple, yet heavy. Cats did not become companions through force. They did not become part of human life through submission. They came because it benefited them, and they stayed because it continued to benefit them. But somewhere along the way, something deeper formed, not a contract, not ownership, a kind of shared belonging, a coexistence, a mutual peace. Like two strangers sitting beside the same fire in winter, not speaking, but understanding each other completely. And that bond, the bond formed without loud affection, still exists today. A cat will sit near you, close enough for warmth, but far enough for freedom. It will accept your home, but not become your possession. It will love you, but it will choose when. It will return, but it will not beg. This is the ancient pattern, the same pattern that began under pale stars in forgotten deserts, the same quiet ritual repeated across centuries. Human life changed. But the cat remained strangely unchanged, still independent, still silent, still shaped by night and instinct, still carrying desert wind behind its eyes. And so in the final image, We return to that earliest moment. A village sleeping. A fire dying down to red embers, a doorway half open, and a cat, not invited, not captured, not claimed, curling beside human feet for the first time. Not because it was trained, but because it decided the warmth was worth trusting. Its body folds like a small crescent moon. Its breath becomes slow, and the night holds its silence around them both. A human and a wild creature, sharing the same space, without fear. And this is the soft certainty wrapped in mystery. Cats did not become ours the way dogs did. They simply walked beside us, and never truly stopped being free. Perhaps that is why they still feel like visitors from another world, marked by the moon, veiled in independence, sacred in their silence. And even now, as you drift closer to sleep, some part of that first night still remains. A quiet agreement, a warm fire, a wild heart choosing peace without surrender. Perhaps it was never meant to be explained. Some bonds are older than language, and only echo when we are ready to listen. It is said that the smallest gestures carry the oldest magic. Not the gestures made for crowds, not the gestures made for applause, but the ones that happen in quiet rooms when nobody is watching and the world feels like it is holding its breath. And tonight, we begin with one of those gestures. A cat looks at you, not sharply, not suspiciously, but softly. Its body is still, its tail is calm, its breathing is slow, like warm wind moving in through curtains. And then, it closes its eyes, not quickly, not like a flinch, but slowly, as if lowering a curtain of trust, as if sealing a sacred door behind it, as if the world is safe enough for even a predator to stop watching. And the mystery rises in that hush. Why do cats slow blink? And why does it feel like being forgiven by the night? In nature, eyes are never casual. To look is to measure danger. To watch is to survive. To keep your gaze open is to stay ready. The wild does not reward softness. The wild rewards awareness. And yet, a cat, born from the ancient blueprint of hunters, does something strange when it trusts you. It releases its vigilance. It closes its eyes for a breath, for a heartbeat, for a moment so small it could vanish unnoticed. But it doesn't vanish, because your own nervous system feels it. Your body understands it before your mind does. Something inside you loosens, your shoulders soften, your thoughts slow down, because when a creature that could survive without you chooses to relax beside you, it feels like a rare blessing, like moonlight touching water, like an ancient language spoken without sound. Some believe the slow blink is simply comfort, a sign that the cat is relaxed, that it is not afraid, that it does not expect you to hurt it. But others say it is more than that, a communication, a ritual. Because cats are not like humans. They do not talk their trust into existence. They do not explain their emotions. They do not build love through promises. They build it through permission. And to close their eyes in your presence is to hand you something fragile. Not a toy, not a gift, something deeper. A quiet message that says, I will not watch you. I will not guard myself against you. I will let the world go soft around me because you are here. And if you have ever felt it, you know why it feels sacred. Because it is not loud affection. It is not desperate need. It is a creature saying, I am safe. And somehow, gently, you are safe too. Whispers tell us that long ago, before humans had words for love, we understood trust through stillness, through posture, through breath, through closeness without tension. And cats have never forgotten that. Their language is older than ours. It is written in the smallest movements. A flick of the ear, a slow turn of the head, a tail tip curling like a question mark, a body resting with paws tucked beneath, like a sleeping statue. Cats do not speak in sentences. They speak in atmosphere. They speak in quiet signs that feel almost invisible, yet carry full meaning. A cat does not need to say, "I trust you." It shows you by sitting with its back turned, by stretching without fear, by washing its face near you, as if the world cannot surprise it. And among all those silent symbols, the slow blink is the gentlest, because it asks for nothing. It demands nothing. It simply appears like a soft lantern in a dark room, and if you blink back slowly, you are answering in the same ancient tongue. You are saying, "I will not chase you. I will not overwhelm you. I will let you be free, even while you stay." In forgotten corners of the earth, cats have always lived between worlds, not fully wild, not fully tame. They belong to the kitchen and the alleyway, to the sofa and the moonlit rooftop, to warmth and shadow. They carry the softness of home and the sharpness of claws, and this contradiction lives inside every slow blink. Because the creature blinking at you is not a harmless toy. It is a hunter, even in a quiet apartment, even on a soft blanket. A cat is built from stillness and sudden precision. Its muscles are made for silence. Its eyes are designed for twilight. Its bones remember ancient fields and tall grass. And yet, this same creature will curl near your chest, will fall asleep beside your feet, will rest its body in your presence like a folded prayer. And when it slow blinks, it is doing something extraordinary. It is crossing a bridge from the wild to the gentle, from survival to belonging, from instinct to companionship. And it does it without ceremony, without announcement, as if it has always known the way. Some believe that the slow blink is a kind of peace offering, a way of saying, "I come with no threat." In the animal world, staring can be dangerous. A direct stare can be a challenge, a claim, a confrontation. But a slow blink breaks the stare. It softens it. It lowers the sharp edge of attention. And so, the cat tells you in silence, "I will not dominate you. I will not fight you. I will not take what is not mine." It is a surrender, but not a weak one. It is a surrender chosen freely. And that is what makes it feel like love. Not ownership, not obedience, but a voluntary lowering of guard, a quiet, sacred permission. Imagine the cat as an ancient traveler, a creature walking through centuries of human lives, through villages, through temples, through crowded cities and empty ruins. It has sat beside kings and beggars. It has watched fires rise and fall. It has listened to the sounds of human grief and human joy without ever needing to explain itself. And still, after all that time, the cat has kept its most intimate message simple. A slow blink, just a closing and opening of eyes, like a door opening slightly, then closing again, not fully inviting you inside, but showing you that there is an inside, a soft, private world where the cat keeps its trust. And if you are lucky, it will let you stand near that doorway. The slow blink feels especially powerful because it arrives quietly. It doesn't force itself into your attention. In fact, it can happen so gently, you barely realize it was given. A cat looks at you from across the room, its eyes like two calm moons. Then slowly, the lids lower. A pause, a breath. Then the eyes open again, as if nothing happened. But something did happen, something important. Because cats do not waste vulnerability. They do not give softness carelessly. They do not offer peace to just anyone. They offer it to those who feel safe, those who respect distance, those who do not demand affection, those who do not chase their love like a trophy. A cat approaches the quiet ones, the patient ones, the people who understand stillness, and when it slow blinks at you, it is not just cute. It is telling you something rare. You are not a threat to me, and in this moment, I will rest. There is something almost spiritual about the way cats love. Not constant, not loud, not always visible, but real in subtle patterns. A cat may ignore you all day, then appear at night, like a small shadow drifting into your room. It may sit beside you without touching. It may place one paw against your leg, as if testing whether you are real. It may choose a spot near you and fall asleep, curling into itself like a secret. Cats do not love in ways that beg for recognition. They love like wind loves trees, moving through, touching gently, never demanding an answer. And the slow blink becomes the purest version of this. A message without noise, a blessing without weight. And still the contradiction remains. Cats are fierce hunters, yet they seek warmth and soft belonging. They can leap with lightning speed, yet they can sit for hours, unmoving, like carved stone. They are independent, yet they choose certain people with devotion so quiet it takes years to notice. The slow blink sits inside that contradiction like candle light. It is tenderness from a creature built for precision. It is softness from a body designed for survival. It is trust from an animal that does not need to trust. And that is why it feels like being forgiven. Because when a cat slow blinks at you, it is as if the wild itself is saying, "You may be clumsy, you may be loud, you may not understand my world, but I will let you be near me anyway." And so we end where we began, with the cat looking at you. The room is quiet, the air feels warm, the world feels slower than it did before, and once again, the cat closes its eyes, slowly, softly, as if lowering a curtain, as if sealing the night with peace. And you understand the lesson without being taught. Maybe cats teach us a quieter form of love, one that does not demand, one that does not chase, one that does not prove itself through constant noise, but one that simply says, "I am here, I am safe, you are safe too." And then it leaves the rest in silence. Perhaps it was never meant to be explained. Some voices only echo when we are ready to listen, and some love arrives like a slow blink in the dark, soft, sacred, and gone again before you even realize how much it healed you. It is said that in Egypt the desert does not forget. It only covers. Beneath the sand, beneath the crumbled edges of temples and the quiet ribs of ruined cities, the past sleeps, the way a cat sleeps, alert even in rest, listening even in silence. And when night arrives on the Nile, when the sky turns star-marked and the air cools into something almost oceanic, you can imagine the old world breathing again. Tonight, we open a door in the dark, not a loud door, a door of incense, a door of dust, a door of stone warmed by centuries of sun. And beyond it, the mystery rises like smoke. Why were cats worshipped? What did humans see in a small, quiet creature that made it feel divine? Picture an ancient corridor, carved with symbols that look like prayers turned into pictures. Torches tremble. The light is soft and golden. Somewhere, water murmurs, perhaps the river itself whispering through the night. Then you see her, a cat, not a casual companion, a presence. She moves without sound, paws pressing the floor like a secret. Her ears catch everything. Her eyes hold a calm that feels older than panic. She passes statues of falcons and crocodiles and jackals, as if she belongs among them, as if she is another sacred form wearing fur instead of stone. In a world where death was not an ending but a doorway, Egyptians watched the cat and felt something shift inside them. Because the cat seemed to understand thresholds. Cats linger at doorways, cats sit in windows, cats stand at the edge of light and shadow, like guardians of the in-between. Whispers tell us that this is where the worship begins, not in grand declarations, but in small daily miracles. A storehouse of grain, precious as gold, a village kitchen, a sleeping child. Mice gather in the dark like tiny thieves, and then the cat arrives, not summoned by command, but drawn by a quiet agreement between hunger and shelter. She slips into human life like moonlight, uninvited, yet welcomed by the warmth she brings. The mice vanish, the grain remains, the home becomes safer. Protection at first is practical, but in Egypt, practicality often becomes ritual, because anything that guarded life in a land balanced between flood and famine, heat and disease, could begin to feel holy. And the cat did more than hunt. She watched, she waited, she chose her moment. She made stillness look like power. In temples, priests spoke of order and balance, of a harmony that kept the world from dissolving into raw darkness. They called it Ma'at, a thread the universe must not lose. And in the cat, people saw a living echo of that thread, poised, controlled, unhurried, precise. So the cat became more than an animal. She became a sign. In the stories, a goddess appears, Bastet, gentle and fierce, guardian of home and joy. Sometimes she is woman, sometimes she is cat. Sometimes she is both at once, as if divinity itself cannot decide where the human ends and the animal begins. And then there is Sekhmet, the lioness, blazing like noon, the heat of the desert made into a face. She is plague and protection, wrath and healing, truth too sharp to hold without trembling. Between Bastet and Sekhmet, the feline becomes a bridge, softness and claws, comfort and danger. This is the contradiction Egyptians understood. Cats were adored and feared, because a cat can be warm as a blanket, and yet sudden as lightning. A cat can blink slowly, like forgiveness, and yet strike with the precision of an ancient weapon. To worship a cat, then, was not to worship harmlessness. It was to honor balance, and perhaps that is why cats fit so naturally into tombs. Because tombs, too, were contradictions, places of death built to protect life beyond death, silence built to preserve voice, darkness built as shelter. The tombs were carefully arranged worlds, food painted on walls so the spirit would never hunger, spells written like woven charms, amulets shaped like eyes and scarabs and small sacred animals, each one a key. Each one a promise. And among them, sometimes, the cat appears, carved into stone, painted in profile, or curled in real life near the feet of those who kept vigil, because the cat belonged to the night. Cats walked through darkness without panic. They stepped into moonlit courtyards and returned unharmed, as if they knew secret routes through shadow, paths that humans could not see. They listened to the world when the world was quiet. They noticed the faintest movement, the nearly invisible threat. In a land filled with uncertainty, scorpions, snakes, sickness, the unpredictable moods of the river, cats looked like calm certainty. A cat did not argue with the night. A cat did not fear it. A cat made the dark feel navigable, and humans, exhausted by the heaviness of being human, wanted that. So they honored it. They placed cats in their stories. They placed cats in their temples. They placed cats in their afterlife. Some believe that in Bubastis, the city sacred to Bastet, festivals once bloomed like flowers in the desert, boats filled with music drifting down the Nile, people bringing offerings, not only of incense and wine, but of gratitude. Gratitude for warmth, for safety, for the simple miracle of a home that remains intact. But reverence has a shadow. Cats were protected by law. To harm one was unthinkable. When a cat died, some families mourned as if a relative had passed, shaving their eyebrows in grief, offering prayers, letting the house fall into a hush. And in the tombs, cats were sometimes mummified, wrapped in linen like small bundles of night, placed carefully into the earth, offered perhaps as companions for the dead, or as gifts to the gods. It is easy from far away to see only strangeness in this, to call it superstition. But if you step closer, closer to the candlelight, closer to the human heart, you begin to feel the simple truth beneath it. People were afraid. Afraid of hunger, afraid of sickness, afraid of losing children, afraid of the river failing, afraid of dying without meaning. And when fear is heavy, humans search for anchors. They look for something that seems steady, something that moves through danger without losing itself. And in Egypt, sometimes that anchor was a cat, a small predator who could defeat a snake, a quiet watcher who could keep the grain safe, a creature who could sit in a doorway like a living amulet. Even the great sun god, in some tales, takes feline form, a divine cat who battles the serpent of chaos, cutting through darkness so the sun can rise again. It is a myth, yes, but myths are not meant to be measured like coins. Myths are mirrors, and what they reflected was this: the cat as guardian of order, the cat as blade against chaos, the cat as calm face in the night. So when Egyptians bowed their heads to cats, perhaps they were bowing to the dream of being untroubled, of being watchful but not anxious, of being sharp but not cruel, of moving through life with the quiet confidence of a creature that belongs in both light and shadow. And perhaps that is why, even now, when a cat sits in a beam of moonlight on your floor, something ancient stirs in you, a memory you never lived but somehow recognize, because cats have never needed to prove their mystery. They simply carry it. Their eyes are veiled mirrors, their steps are silent prayers, their stillness is a kind of spell. Now the temples are quiet, the gods sleep in broken walls, the river still flows, patient as ever, and the desert, vast and listening, keeps its secrets. But if you close your eyes, just for a moment, you can imagine it. A moon above the Nile, a corridor of carved symbols, a cat passing through, unhurried, untouched by panic. And perhaps the final truth is this: humans worshipped cats because cats reminded them of what they wanted to be: watchful, but not afraid, soft, but not weak, wild, but at peace, protected, not by walls or weapons, but by something invisible. Perhaps it was never meant to be fully explained. Some divinities do not speak in thunder. They speak in silence, and sometimes they speak in the slow, steady heartbeat of a creature slipping through the dark. It is said that every cat is two creatures living in the same body. One is made of warmth, of sunlight poured onto fur, of slow breathing and soft paws folded like petals, and the other is older, older than homes, older than human names, older than the idea of safety itself. Tonight we begin with a quiet truth, one that doesn't shout and doesn't need to. Cats are hunters, even in the softest rooms, even on the gentlest couches, even beneath blankets that smell like laundry and comfort. The cat carries the blueprint of the wild. It rests behind the eyes like a hidden moon. It sleeps inside the muscles like a coiled secret. And the mystery, calm but deep, is this: how can something so small hold such ancient power? Some believe the answer is written in silence, because a cat rarely announces what it is. It simply becomes still, and in that stillness, something changes in the air. A cat can be half asleep, body loose, whiskers relaxed, tail resting like a quiet question mark. And then, without warning, its attention sharpens like a blade drawn slowly from velvet. The ears shift. The eyes widen, just slightly. The entire body becomes a listening instrument, not tense with fear, but focused with purpose. It is the kind of focus that belongs to creatures who survived before firelight. Creatures who learned long ago that the world is full of movement, and that movement can mean food, or danger, or opportunity. We follow the cat's movements now, gently, as if watching a ritual we don't want to disturb. The cat steps softly across the floor, one paw at a time, a careful placement, no wasted sound. It is not rushing toward anything. It is not frantic. There is no desperation in the motion, only patience, carved into its bones like an old spell. This is the sacred design of nature, the elegance of survival. Cats are not large predators like lions. They do not rule open plains with roaring armies. They are small, they are quiet. They exist in a world where even a mistake can cost everything. So nature gave them something rare, precision. A cat does not attack the world wildly. It studies. The way a priest studies a candle flame, the way a monk listens to the echo in a stone corridor, the way the desert listens to footsteps at midnight. A cat's stillness is not emptiness. It is concentration. There's a kind of ancient intelligence in the way cats hunt, not an intelligence that comes from books, but from instinct, the type of knowledge written before language, passed down through endless night forests and tall grasses, through long generations of lives lived close to the ground. Somewhere in the cat's blood, there are memories of tall reeds bending in wind, of insects singing in darkness, of shadows moving through grass like hidden water, of eyes watching from behind rocks, waiting. This instinct is not cruel. It is simply old. It belongs to a world where hunger is not a tragedy. It is a law. A world where every creature must play its part to keep the balance from breaking. The cat is not evil. The cat is shaped by ancient rules older than human words. And when you watch a cat in the soft light of evening, you can see those rules written in the smallest details. The way it sits near a doorway, the way it faces outward even while resting, the way it chooses corners and high places, as if the shape of safety is always connected to vision. A cat doesn't fully relax the way humans do, not because it cannot, but because its ancestors couldn't afford to. Some believe cats are made for twilight, the hours where the world is neither fully awake nor fully asleep, the hours where the air cools and sounds travel differently, the hours where prey begins to move and silence becomes thicker, almost tangible. That is when the cat becomes most itself. And if you've ever witnessed a cat suddenly dart across the room with impossible speed, chasing something invisible to you, leaping as if the floor became an ocean, it can feel strange, almost supernatural. But beneath the mystery, there is something simple. Cats are built for short storms, quick bursts of power, explosions of muscle. Then stillness again, like nothing happened. They are not designed for endless running. They are designed for the moment, for the precise strike, and their bodies are shaped perfectly for it. The flexible spine, folding and unfolding like a wave. The hind legs, coiled with spring-like strength. The paws, padded like sacred instruments made to move without announcement. Even the claws, retractable, hidden most of the time, like tiny moons that only appear when needed, not constantly exposed like the weapons of some animals, but kept quiet, protected, waiting. It is the way of the cat to carry power without displaying it. And maybe that is the first comfort in this story. Cats do not threaten you with their strength. They keep it folded inside, like a lullaby that can become thunder, but chooses not to. Whispers tell us that the most impressive thing about the cat is not how it hunts, but how it stops hunting, how it switches worlds. Because the cat who stalks shadows is the same cat who will climb into your lap as if it belongs there. The same creature who can lock onto a moving target with perfect focus will close its eyes beside you and sink into sleep, trusting the room around it. This is where the contradiction appears, like a quiet echo. A predator who chooses peace, a hunter who accepts warmth. How does that happen? How does the wild allow itself to become soft? Perhaps the answer is not found in logic, but in the strange way cats form bonds. Cats do not love loudly. They love in proximity. They love by choosing to stay near you, by sitting beside you rather than away, by placing their body close enough that your warmth becomes part of their environment. And if you are very still, you may feel the small miracle of it. The cat presses against your chest. You can feel its heartbeat, steady, gentle, almost unreal, in its softness, a rhythm so calm it feels like a spell. You are holding a creature designed by nature to survive, a creature shaped by hunger and ancient instincts. And yet it is here, trusting you, not because it forgot what it is, but because it decided, in its own quiet way, that you are safe. This is what makes the cat so hauntingly beautiful. It has claws, and still chooses not to use them. It has teeth, and still chooses gentleness. It has the ability to live like a shadow, and still chooses to live beside you in light. It is as if the cat carries wildness inside it like a sacred relic, something never thrown away, never abandoned, just kept behind glass. And sometimes, late at night, you see the relic shine, the cat staring at a dark corner as if something unseen is moving there, the cat's pupils widening, black as midnight wells, the tail flicking slowly, like a warning written in ink. You don't know what it senses, but the cat knows something, not always something dangerous, sometimes only the movement of air, the hum of an insect, a shift in sound you couldn't hear even if you tried. Cats live closer to the hidden layers of reality. They feel the world differently. They read vibrations the way we read words. They hear the small secrets of floors and walls and silence. And yet, even with all that sensitivity, they sleep deeply in the middle of it all. This is another mystery. How a creature so alert can surrender so completely. But maybe cats sleep the way guardians sleep, not out of weakness, not out of laziness, but out of trust in the cycle. Cats conserve. They rest as if rest is sacred, and humans, restless humans, often forget how to do that. We fill our minds with noise. We fight our own stillness. We treat sleep like something to win, instead of something to enter. Cats remind us that sleep is not a failure, it is a return. And when a cat curls into a small circle, tail wrapped, paws hidden, nose tucked close, it becomes a living symbol of peace, like a small planet with its own quiet gravity. Some believe that is the true reason cats feel comforting, not because they are harmless, but because they are powerful and calm. They hold wildness without being ruled by it. They contain a storm and still choose silence. In forgotten corners of the earth, long before modern rooms and electric light, cats lived among grasses and stones. They listened to the night wind and moved through it like a secret. They survived by being quiet, patient, watchful. Then slowly they stepped closer to humanity. Not to submit, but to coexist. And now they lie beside us, warm and breathing, as if the old world followed them in and curled up quietly at the foot of the bed. a wild spirit with a gentle heartbeat. And here near the end of our chapter, we let the story soften like candlelight. Because the truth isn't frightening, it's comforting. Cats carry wildness inside them, but they do not bring it to harm you. They bring it to remind you that strength can be silent, that power does not need to roar, that softness can live beside claws. And perhaps as you drift toward sleep, you can hold this thought like a small blessing. If a creature built for survival can choose peace, maybe you can too. Maybe you can loosen your grip on the day. Maybe you can let your body rest without apology. Maybe you can trust the darkness the way cats do. Not as a threat, but as a place to recover. A place where the wild heart slows down and becomes quiet and safe, marked by the moon. It is said that some creatures do not travel through the world the way we do. Not by signs, not by street names, not by maps folded inside pockets, but by something older, something invisible. Tonight, we begin with a mystery that feels like folklore, soft, quiet, and strangely sacred. A story whispered between tired travelers and neighbors leaning on doorframes at dusk. A cat goes missing. A door is left open for only a moment. A gate swings wide in a careless wind. A shadow slips out into the night. And for hours, for days, sometimes for weeks, there is nothing, no sound, no trace, only silence filling the spaces where the cat used to sit. And then, one morning, there it is again, sitting on the doorstep as if it never left, walking into the home with calm certainty, blinking slowly, tail held like a quiet signature. It is back, and the question rises like mist. How did it find its way home? Sometimes the distances are small, only a few streets away, but sometimes the stories turn stranger, cats returning across miles, across unfamiliar fields, across neighborhoods they have never seen before, returning as if guided by invisible threads stitched into the earth itself. Whispers tell us these cats carry something inside them, a hidden compass, a direction maker placed deep in the mind, beyond language, beyond conscious thought, beyond anything humans can fully touch. And as we drift deeper into this mystery, the world begins to feel different, because suddenly, the ordinary street outside your home becomes something else. Not just pavement and lamps, not just houses and fences, but a vast landscape filled with signals we cannot see, like the surface of the ocean beneath moonlight, quiet on top, but alive with unseen currents below. Imagine it, a cat alone in the night. Not panicked, not calling out, moving quietly through shadows, slipping beneath parked cars, passing fences like they are temporary ideas. It walks as if it is listening to something you cannot hear. The city becomes a soft maze of sleeping walls, but the cat does not move like something trapped. It moves like something guided, as if it can feel the shape of home, the way you feel the warmth of the sun on your face, without needing to understand it. Some believe cats remember paths like dreams. They memorize corners, they collect familiar smells, they recognize the tilt of a tree, the bend of a road, the slope of the land. And perhaps they do, because cats are not blind travelers. They are observers. Even in comfort, even in safety, they gather information quietly, as if they are storing the world inside them. But the stories suggest something more, something that moves beyond simple memory, because there are times when a cat is displaced far away, moved in a car, carried across distances it could not have walked consciously, released into a place it does not recognize, and still, it finds its way back. Not quickly, not easily, but eventually, with quiet determination, like a candle refusing to go out. This is where science enters the room, but gently, without disturbing the ritual. Because scientists have tried to understand this for a long time. They call it homing ability. And they have theories. Some believe cats rely on scent trails, an invisible ribbon of smell left behind like a whispered path. Cats have an extraordinary sense of smell, far stronger than ours. They can read scents the way we read letters, a familiar garden, a known tree, the trace of their own territory, even the scent of home itself, washed fabric, human skin, old wood, warm air that carries the memory of belonging. A cat might follow these traces like a pilgrim following sacred markings carved into stone. But scent alone does not explain every journey, because wind scatters scent, rain erases it, cities flood it with new smells, and yet the cat keeps going. So others believe cats use landmarks, the position of the sun, the shape of buildings, the rise of hills, the layout of rivers and roads. Perhaps a cat remembers not the names of places, but the feeling of them, a certain rhythm of distance, a certain direction of light and still. Sometimes cats return from places where landmarks are unfamiliar, places where nothing seems connected to their home, and so the mystery deepens. Some believe cats sense something hidden in the earth itself, something subtle, like a quiet pull. There is a theory, still strange, still debated, that cats may be sensitive to the planet's magnetic field, the same invisible force that guides birds across oceans, that directs sea turtles toward distant shores, that helps migrating animals find their way across continents. The Earth, it seems, carries its own silent map, a web of magnetic lines wrapping the globe like an unseen net. And maybe, just maybe, cats can feel it, not as a thought, not as a calculation, but as an instinct, a faint, internal alignment, like a compass needle turning inside the chest. If that is true, then every cat carries a piece of the planet inside its mind, a relationship with the world deeper than roads, deeper than fences, deeper than human design. And there is something almost spiritual about that idea, that the cat does not decide where home is. It senses it, the way a flower senses the sun, the way the tide senses the moon. Beneath the silence, the cat is listening to the earth. But here we meet the contradiction, the one that makes this mystery feel even stranger, even more haunting. Cats can be confused by small changes in a home. A chair moved slightly, a new scent on the carpet, a closed door that was usually open. They hesitate, they investigate, they stare as if something sacred has been altered. Their minds seem delicate in those moments, sensitive, specific, easily disrupted, and yet these same delicate minds can navigate vast spaces outdoors, miles of open land, a city of strange streets, a forest where everything smells like wet bark and old leaves. How is that possible? How can a mind be so precise, yet so easily unsettled? Perhaps it is because cats do not experience space the way we do. Humans live in obvious reality. We move through what we can see. Cats live in layered reality. They move through what we cannot see. Scent, vibration, air pressure, tiny patterns in sound. We walk through the world like solid creatures. Cats move through it like readers of invisible ink. And when a cat is outdoors, it may be surrounded by a kind of information that is richer than what exists inside a controlled home. Outside, the world speaks in signals. Wind carries messages. Trees hold scent history. The ground remembers footsteps. Outside, a cat becomes what it was designed to be, a navigator of subtle worlds. But inside, in our human spaces, the signals are thinner, cleaned away, rearranged, artificial. A couch moved 6 inches can confuse the body's sense of normal. Yet outdoors, the cat feels the living map. And maybe this is why the stories of cats returning home feel so powerful to us. Because we, restless humans, have lost that kind of connection. We depend on devices. We forget directions easily. We become lost even in familiar places when the lights change or the streets are crowded. But the cat carries calm certainty. It does not hurry. It does not argue with the world. It follows the quiet truth inside itself. Imagine a cat walking home at night. Not heroic, not dramatic. Just steady. Moving through alleyways like narrow rivers, crossing fields like silent oceans, resting beneath bushes like a traveler, resting beside a sacred shrine. It stops when it needs to. It hides when it must. It waits through storms. And then, eventually, it arrives, not announcing its triumph, not explaining its journey, just appearing at the edge of your life again, as if it had simply stepped behind a curtain and returned when the scene was ready. And if you look closely at the cat when it returns, you might notice something. It is not always joyful. It is not always desperate. Often it is calm, as if the journey was difficult, but not confusing, as if home was never truly lost, only distant, only hidden behind space. Some voices only echo when we are ready to listen, and perhaps the cat's return is one of those echoes, a reminder, a gentle sign that the world is full of pathways we cannot see, that the earth holds patterns beneath our attention, that not everything important is visible. The cat returns and sits quietly near the doorway. Its fur holds the scent of outside air. Its paws carry dust and small stories. Its eyes look older for a moment, like they have seen something we will never know. And then it stretches. It walks inside. It becomes ordinary again, as if nothing sacred happened at all. But you know it did, because for a brief moment you witnessed something ancient, a creature guided by the unseen, a traveler who carried its own map, and the chapter ends in the softest uncertainty. We may never fully know how cats do it. Maybe it is scent. Maybe it is memory. Maybe it is magnetic whispers in the bones. Maybe it is all of them braided together like threads in a hidden tapestry. Or maybe the truth is something we have not named yet, something waiting beneath the silence. But perhaps that is the point. Cats are not meant to be fully understood. They are meant to be felt. They are reminders that mystery still exists in the modern world, that even near our bright screens and busy roads, there are creatures moving by moonlight, listening to invisible signals, following paths written in air. And if a cat can find its way home through darkness, maybe you can too. Not through streets, but through rest, through quiet, through letting your mind loosen its grip on the day and return, slowly, to its own center, marked by the moon, guided by the unseen, and drifting gently back into the place you belong. It is said that sleep is the oldest temple, older than language, older than cities, older than the first fire carried through a dark cave. And tonight, if you listen closely, you may hear that temple breathing, not with thunder, not with ceremony, but with something softer, a slow exhale, a gentle stillness, the quiet rhythm of a world that knows how to rest. The opening image is simple, a cat asleep in sunlight, not the restless kind of sleep that humans call napping, where the mind keeps one eye open, half tangled in unfinished thoughts. No, this is deeper. This is surrender. A cat lies stretched across the warm floor, unmoving, as if time itself has slowed down to watch. Its paws are loose, its whiskers barely tremble, the chest rises and falls. like the tide touching sand. And for a moment, the room changes. The air becomes softer. The noise of the world feels far away, because something ancient is happening here, something so natural we forget it is sacred. A living creature is resting without apology. And the mystery comes quietly, like a candle being lit in a silent hall. Why do cats sleep so much? And what does their long rest reveal about the rhythm of life, the rhythm we have forgotten, the rhythm we still crave when the night finally arrives? Whispers tell us that cats are made for twilight, not for full daylight, not for deep midnight, but for that thin silver hour between dusk and dawn, the hour when shadows stretch like soft ink across the earth, the hour when birds become quiet, when wind turns cooler, when the sky holds both light and darkness at once. Cats belong to that edge. They are shaped by it. Their bodies are designed for sudden motion and long silence, for sharp hunting focus and deep recovery. They are not built to run all day like wolves. They are not built to graze endlessly like deer. They are built like a bow, pulled back in stillness, held there. Not wasted, not lazy, prepared. And when the moment comes, they release. A single burst of movement, a sudden leap, a flash of precision. Then as quickly as it begins, it ends, and the body returns to stillness again, like a flame returning to a low glow. This is the first secret of cat sleep. Cats are not sleeping because they are empty. They are sleeping because they are storing something. Energy, heat, strength, life itself. If you have ever watched a cat wake suddenly, you know it is not the slow waking of a tired human. It is immediate. A cat can be a statue for hours, and then, without warning, become lightning, eyes open, ears turning, muscles ready, no stretching into awareness, no confusion, one moment lost in dream, the next moment fully present, as if the cat's sleep is not a shutting down, but a different kind of listening. Beneath the silence, the cat is resting the body, while the instincts remain awake. Some believe that in the wild, this is survival. A cat must conserve energy. Hunting costs too much. Every leap burns fuel. Every chase risks injury. So nature taught the cat something wiser than endless motion. Nature taught it to wait, to sleep between moments, to remain still until the world offers the right opening. And so sleep becomes strategy, a sacred patience, a quiet discipline. Even inside your home, where there is no true hunt, the cat still carries this ancient blueprint. The wild is written into the bones. The long sleep continues, not because the cat is bored, but because the body remembers what it once was, a twilight hunter, a creature shaped by dusk, and perhaps without knowing it, we feel comfort in watching them, because our own bodies crave this rhythm too. We were not meant to burn constantly. We were not meant to be on every hour of the day. Yet humans chase the illusion of endless wakefulness. We drink caffeine to force brightness into our minds. We stare at blue light long after sunset. We stretch ourselves thin and call it productivity. But a cat would never do this. A cat does not fight the cycle. It accepts it. It sinks into sleep like a stone into water, as if saying, this is the natural order, this is the sacred design. And that is why watching a cat sleep can feel like prayer. Because in a world obsessed with speed, a cat becomes a lesson, a soft reminder that life is not always motion, that stillness is not failure, that rest is not weakness. A cat sleeps in the middle of the day as if it has nothing to prove, as if the earth is not asking for justification, as if being alive is enough. And the room becomes a sanctuary just from that. But then comes the contradiction. the one every cat owner knows. Cats sleep for hours, and hours, and hours. But then they explode at strange times, at midnight, at 3 a.m., at the hour when the whole home is dark, when your body is drifting into deep rest, and the world is meant to be quiet. Suddenly, your cat runs. It sprints down the hallway like a spirit on fire. It leaps onto furniture. It jumps off walls. It chases invisible enemies made of dust and air. It engages in what humans call the zoomies, as if possessed by a playful storm, and you lie there half awake thinking, how can something that sleeps all day have this much energy? And again the answer is ancient, because cats are not creatures of human schedules. They are creatures of twilight. When the sun falls, their instincts wake. In the wild, this is the hunting hour. Small animals move at dusk. Birds settle. Rodents roam. The world is quiet enough to stalk, but bright enough to see. This is when cats are meant to move. So even in a modern home, even in a room full of soft blankets and safe warmth, the cat's body remembers, and for a moment, the house cat becomes a shadow hunter again. It is not madness, it is memory. It is a ritual written into the nervous system, the sacred rhythm repeating even when there is no reason for it. Then, just as suddenly as it began, it ends. The cat collapses again like a candle going dim, curled into a circle, paws tucked beneath the chest, eyes half closed in peace. And the house becomes quiet again, a dream inside a dream. This is what makes cat sleep feel mysterious, because it is not simple exhaustion. It is not only comfort, it is something deeper. Cats do not sleep like humans sleep. Their sleep feels like a doorway. Sometimes you will see it. The twitching paws, the flickering whiskers, the subtle trembling of the tail, a cat dreaming. And we cannot know what they see in that hidden world. Do they run through wild grass? Do they chase the echo of birds? Do they return to deserts their blood once carried? Or do they dream of nothing at all, only floating in warm darkness, like a feather sinking into quiet air? No one knows, and that is part of the spell. A cat can share your home, your bed, your life, and still remain partly unreadable. A creature close to you, yet wrapped in mystery. But there is something else, something deeper than instinct. Because cat sleep is not only about hunting, it is also about healing. Some believe that sleep is how the body repairs itself. Cells rebuilding, nerves calming, energy returning. Cats spend so much time asleep because their bodies are always restoring the same sacred readiness. They're always returning to balance. They live inside a constant cycle of tension and release, of focus and surrender, of motion and stillness. And maybe that is why their presence feels calming to us, because cats do what humans forget to do. They return to themselves again and again, without guilt, without distraction, without making it complicated. A cat does not say, I should be doing more. A cat does not scroll through life. A cat does not worry about tomorrow while lying down today. A cat lies down and is fully there, fully resting. And in that quiet act, it becomes an invitation, a soft door opening for you too. Because maybe your nervous system recognizes it, maybe your body watches the cat breathing slowly and remembers an older way to exist, a slower way, a way where rest is allowed, where stillness is natural, where the mind becomes quiet. Cats have always lived closer to nature than we do. Even when they are domesticated, their instincts remain tied to ancient cycles. They still track light. They still track warmth. They still track safety. They sleep where the sun falls. They move when the shadows stretch. Their rhythm is lunar. Their rhythm is oceanic. Their rhythm is not made by clocks, but by breath. And when you sit quietly near a sleeping cat, something happens. Your own breath slows. Your thoughts soften. The body stops fighting itself. Because the cat is showing you something the world forgot to teach. Rest is not wasted time. Rest is not weakness. Rest is the sacred return. It is where the body repairs itself, where the mind becomes quiet, where life gathers itself again like water returning to the sea. And perhaps this is why cats feel like twilight creatures. They remind you that you do not need to force the day to continue forever. You do not need to keep the lights on inside your mind. Night is not an enemy. It is a temple. Sleep is not the end of living. It is part of the rhythm, like inhale and exhale, like wave and shore. So as this chapter begins to fade, picture the cat again, asleep in a pool of gentle sunlight. Time slowed around it. The world softened, and the mystery becomes less a question and more a comfort. Cats sleep because they are designed to, because life is designed to, because even the strongest creatures must return to stillness. And maybe tonight, as you listen, you can borrow that sacred rhythm too. Let your muscles loosen like paws sinking into warmth. Let your thoughts drift like dust in moonlight. Let your mind become quiet. And if you hear your own breath, slow, steady, soft, know this: you are doing what the cat already knows. You are returning to yourself, like moonlight returning to the sea. Perhaps that is all sleep ever was, not an escape, but a sacred homecoming, marked by the moon, wrapped in silence, and carried gently into the dark. It is said that cats do not walk through life the way other creatures do. They slip. They drift. They vanish into corners of the world where light becomes thin and silence grows deep. And then, somehow, they return. Again and again. This is where the myth begins. Not in a book, not in a temple, not written in ink, but whispered softly through centuries of human wonder. Cats have 9 lives, an old superstition, a playful phrase, yet somehow it carries weight, like something carved into stone long ago, and still warm from the hands that touched it. Because when humans watched cats, they saw something that didn't feel ordinary. They saw survival that looked like magic, a creature falling from a height and landing with impossible grace, a creature escaping danger as if the world itself bent around it, a creature disappearing into night for days, then returning at dawn with dust on its paws and calm in its eyes. It made people uneasy, and it made them amazed. And when the human mind cannot explain something, it does what it has always done. It turns mystery into poetry. It names the impossible. It says, that animal has more than one life. Some believe the number 9 was not chosen randomly. 9 is an ancient number, a number of cycles, a number of completion. It appears in myth after myth, like a door that keeps opening. 9 worlds, 9 sacred steps, 9 moons, and so to say a cat has 9 lives is to say something deeper than survival. It is to say the cat belongs to a pattern humans cannot fully see. A creature woven into fate differently. A creature that does not break as easily as it should. But beneath the superstition, beneath the rhyme and the charm of it, there is a quieter question, a more intimate one. Why did humans believe it so strongly? What did we witness, over and over, that made the myth feel true? Picture the scene. Somewhere in a forgotten alley, lit only by a thin line of moonlight, a cat moves along a stone wall. One step, another, slow, measured, almost ceremonial. Then something startles it, a sound. a shifting shadow. The cat slips. Its body falls. And for a heartbeat, you expect the ending you've seen too many times in the world. A body hitting ground, a cry, a sudden stillness. But that's not what happens. The cat twists mid-air like a ribbon turning in wind. It turns its body into a question mark. It lands on its feet. And then, without panic, walks away. As if nothing happened, as if gravity tried and failed. And humans watched this enough times that their logic began to soften. They couldn't understand the angles. They couldn't calculate the motion. So they did the only thing they could do. They believed. They told stories about a creature who survives what should end it, and these stories grew thick with time. But the truth beneath the myth is stranger than superstition, because cats really do have something rare. Not 9 lives, but something like 9 chances, 9 moments of near disaster, each one caught in the last breath. Not because the world spares them for no reason, but because nature carved protection into their bones. Cats carry ancient reflexes, silent, automatic, invisible. A hidden system of survival that activates before thought, before fear, before the mind can even say, "This is danger." There's a quiet science behind it, gentle, not harsh, not a lecture. More like looking at the stars and realizing they are made of fire. Cats have a righting reflex. It is said that when a cat falls, its body doesn't surrender. It corrects. The head turns first, finding the earth. The spine follows, fluid and flexible, twisting like smoke. The legs tuck in and then extend at the perfect moment. And in that final second before impact, the cat becomes its own parachute. Its body spreads, its muscles adjust, its paws reach for the ground like they already knew the answer. It is not magic. But it feels like magic because it happens too fast for us to understand. And then there's another secret, one humans rarely consider. Cats are light, not empty, not fragile, but small enough to fall with less force than larger animals. The impact is different. The physics are kinder, as if the cat was designed to be near the edge and still survive it. And so the myth grows again. Cats fall from balconies. Cats slip from rooftops. Cats leap before calculating, trusting the body to solve the rest. Again and again, they return. And in the human heart, this becomes a kind of comfort. Because humans want to believe in something that cannot be easily destroyed. We want to believe there is a creature touched by luck. A creature that reminds us, not everything breaks the first time it falls. Sometimes cats don't just survive falls. They survive the world. Cars, dogs, storms, cold winters. They slip through hazards like water through cracks. They appear and disappear, as if moving between realities. One day they are on your windowsill. The next day they are gone. The hours stretch. The nights deepen. You imagine the worst. And then, on the 3rd morning, they are there again. At the door. Looking at you with that calm, unreadable gaze. As if the universe did not almost take them away. As if they stepped out of danger and simply forgot to mention it. Humans watched this happen too. And the myth became stronger, not because people were foolish, but because they were paying attention. There is a sacred tension here, a contradiction that glows like starlight behind a veil. Cats seem immortal, yet they are not. They seem unbreakable, yet they are small. They seem protected, yet they bleed like anything else. This is the truth beneath it. Cats are resilient, yes, but they are also fragile in ways people forget. Because cats hide pain. They do not scream their suffering into the world. They do not announce weakness. A cat can be injured and still walk normally. A cat can be sick and still curl up in its favorite place like nothing is wrong. A cat can be breaking and still purr. And this is where the myth becomes dangerous, because humans sometimes hear 9 lives and think it means the cat cannot be harmed. But the universe does not bend for any living body forever. Even sacred creatures carry limits. Even the luckiest ones can fall too far. Even the quietest survivors can meet a moment they cannot escape. And there is something soft and sad about that, because in truth, the myth of 9 lives is not proof that cats are invincible. It is proof that humans were terrified of losing them. The myth is love wearing a mask. It is grief trying to protect itself, because the mind cannot accept how quickly something warm can disappear. So it creates a story where the cat keeps coming back, again and again. A creature who returns from the edge, a creature who belongs to the border between life and death, and somehow walks it gracefully. Some believe this is why cats have always carried supernatural meaning. In old cultures, cats were linked to spirits, to omens, to unseen worlds. They were seen as guardians, as watchers, as animals who could sense what humans could not. Perhaps the myth of 9 lives is part of that same ancient idea, that cats are not fully here and not fully elsewhere, that they do not simply exist in one layer of reality, that they move between doors we cannot see. And maybe the myth was never meant to be literal at all. Maybe it was never meant to be counted like coins. Maybe 9 lives is simply the human way of saying, this creature survives what should destroy it, and we do not understand why. Or maybe it is saying something even softer, this creature keeps returning, and we are grateful, because every time a cat comes home, every time it jumps down unharmed, every time it slips through danger and appears again in the quiet light of morning, it feels like a small miracle, not because it defied physics, but because it defied our fear. It proved that hope can return, that not everything ends the way we expect, that sometimes the story continues, and so we begin to treat cats like they are wrapped in luck. We speak to them gently. We watch them with a strange reverence, as if their survival is a sacred act we are lucky to witness. But there is one final layer, the quietest layer, the one hidden beneath all the myths. Cats don't survive because they are immortal. They survive because they are attentive. They are alert in ways humans are not. They read the world like air. They listen to vibrations through their paws. They feel shifts in sound, changes in motion, threats approaching before they become visible. Cats do not stumble through existence distracted. They move like creatures who know danger is real. Even at rest, a cat is still listening. Even asleep, their ears remain tuned to the world. And maybe this is the deeper lesson, that what looks like luck is often awareness, that what looks like magic is often instinct, that what looks like 9 lives is sometimes a single life, protected by 1,000 silent decisions. A cat doesn't survive because it is careless. It survives because it is precise. And still, despite all this, it remains gentle. It remains soft. It curls beside you. It sleeps near your breath. It trusts your home. A predator shaped by survival, choosing peace. And that is its real miracle. Not that it survives danger, but that it chooses rest anyway. So as this chapter begins to dim, as the myth settles back into silence, we return to the question we began with. Cats have 9 lives. But what does that really mean? Perhaps it was never meant to be factual. Perhaps it was never meant to be counted. Perhaps it was simply awe turned into language, a way of saying, this creature belongs to the edge of mystery and somehow keeps returning from it. And if you have one sleeping nearby tonight, breathing slowly in the dark, warm as a living ember, then maybe you understand it too. Not the number, not the logic, but the feeling. That cats carry something old, something veiled, something half wild and half sacred, a creature that slips through the world, falls, twists, lands, and continues. And in that quiet continuation, we find comfort. Because sometimes the softest beings teach the strongest truth. Life is fragile, but it is also stubborn. It keeps returning again and again, marked by the moon, wrapped in dust, carried gently through the dark, as if it was never meant to end too quickly. Sleep well. It is said that the smallest mysteries are the ones that follow us home. They do not arrive with thunder. They do not announce themselves with prophecy or fire. They arrive quietly, curling into the soft shape of comfort, and pretending they have always belonged there. Picture it. A living room at night. The air is still. A lamp glows low and warm, as if it is trying not to wake the house. And on the sofa, deep in the folds of a blanket, a cat sleeps. Its paws are tucked beneath its chest. Its tail rests like a comma at the end of a peaceful sentence. Its ears lie gently folded back, not in fear, but in trust. Everything about this scene feels safe, domestic, ordinary. A creature inside a home, sheltered from rain, from hunger, from the old cruelty of the wild. And yet, beneath the softness, beneath the slow rise and fall of that small breathing body, a question waits. A quiet, ancient question, how much of the wild still lives inside this cat. Because if you look closely, you can feel it. Like moonlight behind a curtain, like an echo beneath a song. The cat on your sofa may be warm, but it is not fully tamed. It is not fully claimed. It is, in some sacred way, still a visitor, a shadow that chose comfort, without surrendering its original spirit. Some believe domestic cats are creatures of two worlds, not divided cleanly, not half wild, half gentle, but layered, like ancient ruins built beneath modern streets. The house cat is the newest story, written over an older one, and the older one is still there, still breathing, still listening. You see it in the way a cat moves through a room, not like a creature that belongs to furniture and walls, but like a creature that remembers open land. A cat does not stomp. It does not hurry. It glides, even in a quiet hallway. Its steps land softly, almost soundless, as if the earth is sacred, as if noise might awaken something sleeping nearby. Its shoulders roll like a wave. Its spine bends like smoke. Its eyes do not simply look. They measure. They gather the room in silence, the way a hunter gathers the shape of a forest before stepping into it. And then, the stillness. That sudden, sacred stillness. A cat can be walking casually, and then it stops, frozen, not startled, not confused, but alert in a way that feels ancient. Its ears tilt forward. Its whiskers widen like antennae to the unseen. Its gaze locks onto something you cannot hear. Maybe it is only a small sound, a pipe shifting, a bug moving in the wall, a change in air. But the cat responds as if it has been summoned, as if something inside its blood remembered a forgotten rule. When the world whispers, you listen. This is the wild shadow behind it. The wiring, the hidden blueprint. A domestic cat still carries the architecture of survival. It is said that the domestic cat's ancestors were desert hunters, small wild cats living near the edges of human life, not belonging to villages, but circling them, watching them, waiting. In the long ago, when human settlements stored grain like treasure, mice came. And where mice gathered, cats appeared, not as pets, not as property, but as quiet visitors, stepping between clay walls, resting near warmth, vanishing before dawn. And this origin story matters, because cats were not shaped the way dogs were shaped. Dogs were gathered, chosen, trained, pulled closer and closer to human command. But cats approached differently. They were never fully captured. They were never fully convinced. They did not join us with loyalty. They joined us with agreement. A slow, silent ritual between two species. Humans offered a world full of prey and shelter. Cats offered protection from the small invading teeth of rodents. And so the bond formed, not through control, but through coexistence. And maybe that is why, even now, thousands of years later, a house cat still behaves like a creature who has not forgotten the terms. Cats accept comfort, yet they do not surrender their independence. They love, but they choose. They belong, but only on their own terms. This is the sacred contradiction. A cat can sleep on your chest one night and ignore you completely the next morning. A cat can follow you from room to room like a shadow made of fur, and then vanish for hours with no explanation. It can love you deeply, without ever becoming obedient. It can look at you as if you are its whole world, and then walk away as if you are only part of it. To many humans, this feels confusing, even painful. We are trained to believe love should be loud, consistent, proven every minute. But cats teach a quieter kind of truth. Love can exist without submission. Trust can exist without ownership. And maybe that is why their presence feels so strange, so mystical, so deeply calming. Because in the cat, we meet a creature that has never fully surrendered to fear. It has never fully surrendered to us either. It simply exists. With dignity, with silence, with something like sacred distance. And yet, it stays. It chooses the sofa. It chooses the warm spot on the bed. It chooses the familiar voice calling gently into the dark. And that choice feels like a blessing. The wildness inside the cat is not a performance, it is real. It appears in small moments that feel like sudden openings in the veil. A cat playing with a string suddenly becomes something else. Not cute, not clumsy, but precise. It crouches. Its body becomes low, compressed, like a bow pulled back. Its eyes widen. Its pupils darken. Its tail flicks once, twice, slow and controlled, and then it pounces, fast as lightning, not because it is angry, not because it is cruel, but because the ancient program inside it awakened, the predator, the hunter, the small desert shadow that once survived by moving at the exact right second. In these moments, you are not watching a pet. You are watching a creature that was shaped by hunger and night and wind. A creature that carries old instincts in its bones. But the tone of this story remains soft, because the cat is not evil. It is not violent for joy. It is simply nature's design, elegant and balanced. A small predator built to endure. And even that is beautiful, because it means the cat is real, not manufactured, not artificial. Not a toy made for human affection. A cat is a living creature who could survive without you, but chose, somehow, to include you in its life. That is why their affection feels rare. It is not a guaranteed. It is not demanded. It is freely given. And this makes it powerful. Some believe the wild shadow behind a cat can also be seen in its silence. Cats do not speak often, not like humans do, not like dogs do. They do not constantly fill the air with sound. They do not announce their emotions with dramatic noise. Instead, they communicate in posture, in tail movement, in slow blinking, in small shifts of weight, in the slightest flattening of ears. It is as if cats are speaking an older language, one built for survival. In the wild, noise is dangerous. Noise invites attention. Noise reveals your location. So the cat learns to be quiet, to let the world pass around it, to move like a spirit. And even in a home full of safety, the instinct remains. The cat watches, listens, knows. It holds its mystery close. And perhaps that is what makes humans feel so drawn to them. Because humans are tired. Our minds are loud. Our lives are crowded with noise and demand. And then a cat enters the room, and everything becomes slower. The air softens. The silence becomes thick. Even the heartbeat feels quieter. Because cats do not rush. Cats do not chase. Cats do not beg for the future. They rest in the moment like it is the only thing that exists, but still. There's melancholy in this story, too. A gentle sadness, like the last light fading behind a mountain. Because the cat is always standing in a doorway, half inside the home, half still facing the wild. We imagine the long chain of ancestors, small wild cats watching grain stores from a distance, staying close enough to benefit, far enough to remain free. Generation by generation, closer, closer, yet never fully surrendering. The wild shadow did not die. It simply learned to sleep beside fire. And the modern cat is the result of that ancient compromise. Not fully wild, not fully domestic, a bridge between wilderness and home. And maybe that is why, even now, a house cat can be startled by something small. A new piece of furniture, a changed scent, a different sound. Cats are creatures of the familiar, but also creatures of caution. They survive by noticing changes. So even in comfort, the wild mind remains. Always aware that safety is temporary, always prepared to vanish if needed. And yet, they don't. They stay. They choose the blanket. They choose the soft cushion. They choose your quiet presence. And in that choice, something sacred happens. Because the cat is telling you, without words, that it trusts you. Not like a servant trusts a master, but like one wild soul trusts another. A mutual agreement, a shared breath. So as this chapter begins to fade, as the room becomes softer, as the cat on the sofa shifts slightly in its sleep, we come to the final reflection. The cat beside you is not only a pet. It is not only a decoration of comfort. It is not only a creature made for your affection. It is a visitor from an older world. A world of desert wind and tall grass. A world where survival was written into every movement. A world where silence was a shield. And still, night after night, it chooses to return. It chooses warmth. It chooses the quiet sound of your life nearby. It chooses, again and again, to rest near you anyway. Perhaps that is the most beautiful truth beneath all the softness. Not that the cat became tame, but that it remained free and still came close. Marked by the moon, carrying wild night in its blood, breathing gently beside the human world, as if both worlds can exist in peace, at least for this one quiet moment, before sleep carries everything back into silence. It is said that the purest love does not arrive with noise. It does not knock hard on the door. It does not demand a name or a promise or a place at the center of your world. It arrives the way moonlight arrives, slowly, softly, without asking permission, and sometimes it arrives in the shape of a cat. Not because we called it, not because we deserved it, but because in some quiet corner of the universe, it decided to come closer. Picture a house at night. The air is dim. The world outside has fallen into its long sleep. And inside, there is only the gentle hush of ordinary life, a ticking clock, a distant hum of electricity, a curtain breathing against the window. You are there, still, perhaps tired, perhaps waiting for rest, and somewhere in the room, unseen at first, a cat watches, not like a guard watching for enemies, not like a servant waiting for instruction, but like a creature that holds its trust carefully, as if trust is not something you give away, as if trust is a sacred object carved from silence and time. The cat steps forward, no rush, no announcement, just a soft movement through the shadows, a pause, a breath, then a gentle decision. It sits near you, not on you, not forced into affection, just near, close enough to share warmth, far enough to remain free. And something shifts in the air when that happens, something delicate, something that feels like a blessing you did not earn. This is the mystery. Why do cats choose certain people? And why does that choice feel like being seen in a way that words cannot explain? Because cats do not love the way humans imagine love should work. Cats do not love on schedule. They do not love in loud performances. They do not love because you demand it. They love like the night loves the earth, quietly, patiently, at a distance that still feels intimate. Some believe cats are not attached to humans the way dogs are, not bound by obedience, not shaped by praise. Cats are not creatures of permission. They are creatures of consent, and that is why, when a cat chooses you, it feels different. It feels rare. It feels sacred. Because it was not automatic. It was not guaranteed. It was given slowly, like a temple opening its gate only when the traveler has learned how to walk softly. There is a strange truth hidden in the way cats approach love. If you chase them, they disappear. If you demand their attention, they turn away. If you reach too quickly, they retreat into their own unseen world. But if you sit still, if you become calm, if you allow the air between you to remain unbroken, they come closer. Not because you grabbed them, but because you made space for them to arrive. Cats respond to energy more than action. They feel the storm inside people, the restless hunger for control, the frantic desire to be loved immediately. And they avoid it, not out of cruelty, but out of ancient instinct. Because in nature, urgency is dangerous. In nature, loudness is often a warning. So cats seek calm. They seek quiet. They seek the presence that does not demand, that does not grab, that simply exists. And that is why a cat will often choose the person who ignores it, the one who does not stare, the one who does not force touch, the one who sits like a soft lamp in the corner of the room. There is something almost spiritual about this. Like cats are not looking for power. They are looking for peace, and perhaps, deep down, humans are looking for the same thing too. We think we want love that is loud, love that proves itself endlessly, love that belongs to us. But when a cat chooses to love us, it teaches us a quieter form of devotion. A love that does not cling, a love that does not beg, a love that simply says, I am here because I want to be, and nothing else. Whispers tell us that this is why cat affection feels so powerful, because it is not constant in obvious ways. It does not stay beside you every second. It comes and goes like tides, but when it returns with the weight of intention. A cat may vanish for hours, slip into another room, disappear behind furniture like a drifting shadow. You may call its name and receive only silence, no answer, no sign, nothing. And for a moment, the human mind panics. Did it stop loving me? Did I do something wrong? Why is it ignoring me? But the cat is not thinking in those terms. Cats do not measure love through constant closeness. They measure it through safety, through comfort, through invisible agreements. They leave because they can. They return because they choose. And the contradiction lives here. Cats can disappear, ignore us, leave the room without explanation, and yet return later to sit close, as if they never left, as if distance did not break the bond, as if love does not require constant proof, only presence when it matters. A cat might spend the day acting like you barely exist, and then at night, when the world becomes quiet, it appears. It climbs onto the bed like a familiar spirit. It circles once, twice, a small ritual of choosing the perfect place, and then settles beside you. Warm, heavy, real, and in that moment, the bond becomes undeniable. Not because it was loud, but because it returned. Some believe cats teach humans the art of being chosen, because most humans want to be needed, to be necessary, to be the reason someone stays. But cats do not stay because they need you in desperation. They stay because they want you as part of their world. And that can feel almost unbearable in its beauty, because it suggests a kind of love beyond dependency, a kind of love that remains free. Cats are not impressed by status, not by wealth, not by force, not by the loud armor humans wear to feel important. Cats are drawn to something softer, a gentle voice, a slow movement, a calm breath, a presence that does not threaten. If you are patient with a cat, it remembers. If you respect a cat's boundaries, it notices. If you offer affection without demanding it back, it understands, and slowly, over days, over weeks, over months, the bond forms. Quietly, like a candle being lit in a dark temple, not with fireworks, but with steady hands and silence. This is why the cat's affection feels like something earned, not earned through tricks, not earned through obedience, but earned through your ability to be safe, to be gentle, to be someone who does not take, someone who waits. There is something ancient in that, something that feels older than modern life. Because modern life teaches us to rush, to grab, to conquer, to win affection. But cats do not respond to conquest. They respond to harmony. They respond to calm. They respond to the person who becomes quiet enough to be trusted. And when a cat finally rests against you, when it presses its forehead to your hand, or curls beside your ribs, or offers you the slow blink, it feels like an initiation, a sacred invitation into a quieter universe. A cat's trust is not careless. It is not thrown around. It is placed in your hands like something fragile and rare. Because cats know what it means to survive. They know what it means to be small in a world full of large dangers. Even in the safety of a home, their body still carries that awareness. So when they relax around you, when they show their belly, when they sleep facing away, when they close their eyes near you, they are doing something extraordinary. They are lowering their defenses. They are stepping into vulnerability. They are saying, without language, I believe you will not harm me. And that belief is the heart of the bond. Not ownership, not control, just trust. And trust is always sacred. Beneath the silence there is another truth. Cats do not belong to us the way we imagine. We say, my cat, the way we say, my phone, my house, my chair. But cats are not objects. They are not possessions. They are companions that remain partly untouchable. Even when they love you, they remain themselves. Even when they sit in your lap, they remain free. And perhaps that is why the bond feels like something humans never fully earned. Because cats did not surrender to us the way other animals did. They did not become ours completely. They simply walked beside us. And sometimes, for reasons we may never fully understand, they choose to stay. It is easy to forget how strange this is. A creature with claws, a creature with ancient hunting instincts, a creature that could survive without you. Sleeping peacefully in your presence, trusting your home, trusting your breath, trusting your hands. That is not small, that is not ordinary, that is a quiet miracle. And maybe that is why the cat's love feels like being seen. Because cats do not flatter. They do not fake affection. They do not act pleased to keep you happy. If a cat comes near you, it is real. If a cat rests on you, it is real. If a cat follows you silently from room to room, it is real. It does not perform for you. It simply chooses you. And being chosen, without performance, feels like the purest form of recognition. The chapter ends, as all bedtime rituals should, not with answers, but with silence, with softness, with the candle dimming. Perhaps cats are teachers, not teachers of obedience, not teachers of control, but teachers of presence, of quiet respect, of patience, of love that does not demand proof every moment, love that can disappear and still remain, love that arrives like moonlight, gradually, quietly, without announcement, and yet changes the entire room. And if a cat has ever chosen you, even for a single night, to rest close, to breathe beside you, to share warmth without words, then you have touched something rare, something sacred, something freely given. Perhaps that is the secret cats carry in their soft bodies, the quiet truth that love is most beautiful when it is never forced, when it is never taken, when it is offered like a blessing, and then allowed to remain exactly what it is, a gentle mystery, marked by the moon, fading slowly into sleep.